world of gaming has changed drastically over the years. What began as once a simple venture of artistic endeavor of multiple people getting together and creating something fun, something entertaining, and something unique, allowing creators to bring players into a world entirely of their own. One where they had complete control, not only in regards to the world itself, but also in how the player interacted with it, defining the rules and systems in a way that allowed for creativity. And I'm not just talking about modern PC games, this includes board games. The imagination involved in even things such as chess is astounding, and the impact these games have had has fundamentally changed the world and the way we view it, with gaming then providing not only for the ability for people to come together and just enjoy their time as a form of entertainment, but also a way to develop skills, to pass on teachings, to learn key characteristics of patience, strategy, long-term tactical decisions, and even aspects of interpersonal relations in playing the player instead of the game. Yet now, all of that has been lost, and has simply gone the way of all of our art forms. And yes, the business venture is definitely a requirement. It's what provides finances for the creators and allows them to continue making games if it wasn't for the fact that those business ventures have gotten completely in the way of any form of actual creative development. And though I could certainly continue to babble on about how gaming is an art form, that'll have to be for another day. And what brings this video to light is the final point, the end of the line, and the worst thing I've ever heard being introduced into games, I hope, ever. Originally, games were designed, created, and sold as a singular package. You bought the game and that was all you ever got. Later on, we had expansions brought in. Now you could add on additional information, at least if you're a PC gamer, to the best of my knowledge. None of this existing on consoles, not until the Xbox, PlayStation 2, or even 360 PS3 era. And it was around that era that internet access became a thing, leading to those expansions to become DLC. These DLCs shrinking in size and scope, providing less and less for the player, before finally leading to the introduction of cosmetic DLC, something so small and pointless and originally included in games as an unlock should you be able to complete the games under certain parameters or certain challenges within it. Now instead you would be paying for them. Fast forward but a few years and we see the introduction of marketplaces for these cosmetics, and even the introduction of in-game currencies so as to purchase them. And all the while, none of this doing anything to improve the actual state of games. Instead, just an increased revenue for each publisher. And all of this we wrote off as acceptable. It's an optional venture. If you want to have cosmetics, you feel free. Personally, I don't, and it's not giving them any advantage, so allow players to do what they want. As the old adage goes, give them an inch and they'll take a mile. And so we find ourselves at the beginning of the introduction of NFTs within gaming. An NFT, standing for non-fungible token, is essentially just unique verification of digital artwork that can be transferred between individuals for an actual financial amount. Something that never really made sense to me, because surely you could sell art online before all this. You just didn't have the whole single verification thing via the blockchain. But I digress, because that's not really the point of this. NFTs, along with any other thing you wish to buy and sell online, is entirely up to you. That said, I do not accept their introduction into games. It used to be that games were entirely based around what could be provided in that singular purchase, with enough players picking them up, enjoying them, and then hopefully having enough buzz and enough financial income to justify the creation of a second game in the series, or even simply allowing the developers to move on to their next project. So just how are NFTs being introduced into the world of gaming? Well, the article that finally spurred me into making this video was one by PC Gamer, where we can see that the Square Enix president knows people who play to have fun dislike NFTs, they want them anyway. Turns out that President Yosuke Matsuda does acknowledge the fact that people simply don't want NFTs, but legitimately does not care. As part of a New Year's opening letter, we can already see the president of Square Enix on their official site, bringing in new ideas such as the metaverse year. Oh, what good hells have yet to be spawned. Now going through, they praise the advances in technology and quite extensively talk about blockchain. And honestly, they're not wrong. NFTs have certainly seen a great deal of enthusiasm and expanded their user base extremely quickly over the past year, with the concepts of trading these becoming tantamount to those of stock exchanges and the creation of investment portfolios. And though all this sounds fun and good, I would highly recommend you do a lot more research into these before ever dabbling in such a thing yourself, not to mention take a time to check some of the various artists who have now completely removed all of their art from online spaces, not simply for the fear of them being turned into NFTs, because they actually are. People are stealing other people's work, having them verified on the blockchain, and then earning exorbitant amount of monies, all from someone else's effort. But in getting back to our dear president of Square Enix, they seek to address changes in their business environment via medium-term business strategy that they unveiled back in May of 2020 via an identified AI, the cloud, the blockchain, games as new domains on which they will focus their investments and have subsequently been aggressive in their R&D efforts and investments in those areas. Question is, will that Final Fantasy turn out to be a nightmare? Now, what I found so interesting about this letter is the way in which they talk about NFT games. And that is that they define single-player or online games traditionally as having been unidirectional. That is to say that creators provide the game and the consumers play them. That is it. There is no further interaction from it. This is of course assuming that you're following the terms of agreement and not engaging in any of the black market systems. If you play World of Warcraft, then you know what I'm talking about. However, they are viewing blockchain games as having their own state of growth, and this is as by using a token-based economy, the game will be able to self-sustain, with them even suggesting the concept of play to earn. Well, for a little thought experiment, let's just imagine this all goes through and the world moves on to having games that are inherently built upon an NFT system. That means that you're going to have people playing games so as to gain these NFTs. The most valuable NFTs are only going to be connected to the most widely played games, as more people will want the NFTs for them. Meaning that the majority of games are not only not going to have anyone playing them, but really won't be worth your time to play if you're aiming to make money from them. Well, at that point, we're limiting ourselves to only a select few games, and we're also limiting the ability for new developers to come in, as in order to make any money, they'll have to be using games with NFTs, and in order to do that, they'll need to go into the larger games that are currently being played to ensure that they can create NFTs for them and therefore gain money from it and become a gaming developer. Basically, we've taken the current stagnation and plateau of modern gaming and solidified it, completely separating the gaming marketplace into two individual consumers. You'd have business consumers and your workaday requirements of logging on and engaging in games as a service, but for your job, before playing really just indie games, as no AAA game would ever dare bring anything out unless it had NFTs in it. Holy crap, that's horrible. And as if to make that nightmare just that a little bit worse, Yosuke Matsuda even acknowledges that people who play to have fun and who currently form the majority of players have voiced their reservations towards these new trends, and understandably so. They still believe that there will be a certain number of people whose motivation is to play to contribute, which Yosuke Matsuda believes will help make the game more exciting, given that traditional gaming has offered no explicit incentive to this latter group of people are motivated strictly by such inconsistent personal feelings as goodwill and volunteer spirit. This fact is not unrelated to limitations of existing UGC user-generated content, which they see as having been brought in for the desire for self-expression and not because any explicit incentive existed to reward them for their creative efforts. And thus, by introducing a token-based economy, it will provide an explicit incentive to get this new consumer market motivated and into their games. Now, they do note that they will be keeping a close eye on societal shifts in this space while listening to the groups of users that populate it, ramp up efforts to develop a business accordingly with an eye to potentially issuing their own tokens in the future. Now, the fact that Yosuke Matsuda has openly stated the whole way through that they acknowledge the reservations of gamers, they acknowledge the fact that people don't want this, they acknowledge the fact that gamers are unhappy, uncertain, and unwilling to have NFTs introduced into their games, they're still going to do it anyway. And if that doesn't show you what these companies think of their consumer base, then I really don't know what does. Though interestingly, in switching game and switching producer, we can see from Stalker 2 the complete opposite. Now, what was very interesting about this was not only the fact that it changed oh so quickly, but that it all happened over on Twitter, with the Stalker official page stating, "Dear Stalkers, we hear you. Based on the feedback we received, we've made a decision to cancel anything NFT related in Stalker 2. The interests of our fans and players are the top priority for the team, We're making this game for you to enjoy whatever the cost is. If you care, we care too. It's a lovely little sentiment, and the fact that it came 90 minutes after GSC Game World had actually explained why they were bringing non-fungible tokens in definitely shows you how volatile the community is in literally forcing a company to back down from their intentions within 90 minutes. And a big shout out to Count Christo for actually connecting us to Know It Die Slowly for a little bit of an explanation for everyone to see about what an NFT actually is. Now overall, the reaction from the public to this has been a mixed bag, and for darn good reason. The fact that GSC Games had originally wanted to bring this in shows you whereabouts the industry is going, as well as the fact that the developer were not only intending but wanting to do so, with the only reason they backed off being the sheer visceral nature of the reaction to that statement. But thanks to The Verge, we can have a little look-see at what originally the Stalker 2 NFTs were going to be. I have to say that a lot of these actually sound pretty much the same as pre-order or even Kickstarter bonuses I've seen in other games, including the introduction of an NPC based upon the individual who paid for it. So with one company intending to bring in NFTs, another company with such a lashback that they quickly decided against it, we then come to Ubisoft. And let's not be surprised, have already gone and done it. And just what you get cosmetic items with a number engraved upon the item to prove that it is unique and therefore must be an NFT, and that's kind of it. That is all you get. I have to say what's been very interesting though is the choice of introducing this with Ghost Recon Breakpoint. I say this is interesting because this is a game that, as far as I'm aware, no one particularly cares about. Ghost Recon Wildlands didn't do so well, Breakpoint did even worse, and most people have moved on to better things, meaning that it really doesn't tarnish the game at all to introduce something such as NFTs into it. No offense to anyone who enjoys the game. But I make this point because if you truly believe that NFTs would work, then you would definitely be introducing them into your flagship titles, which I have to say, as a legacy fan to the Ghost Recon series, I'm a little disappointed in myself that I don't consider it to be a flagship anymore. So given that even Ubisoft isn't fully invested in this, since they're introducing it into a lesser title first, just to test the waters, exactly why have so many companies decided to go the NFT route? Simply comes down to the fact that there is a lot of hype surrounding them. And though I've said earlier there definitely are people looking at this as more of an investment, really it's the fact that so many people are hearing about all of these individual items being sold for millions of dollars that it's getting hopes up and tapping into that fantasy we all have of winning the lottery. And you certainly can't deny that it happens. It's the same as any form of investment, same as any form of auctioneering, and the same as any form of gambling. Few people will win, though the vast majority will lose. And seeing how there are some suggestions, though not all of them verified, of the environmental impact surrounding the use of NFTs, there's certainly a lot of questions regarding the efficacy of introducing this into the gaming market, particularly considering that there have already been accusations of things such as loot boxes being gambling and the harm it's done to gaming. On top of this, also the fact that you have underage individuals, with that age changing depending on your country, potentially now exposed to further financial considerations in gaming when there's already still such controversy surrounding in-game purchases. But who knows, maybe this will finally be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and although the nice little backlash that loot boxes got, quite deservedly so, though far more should have been done, I for one simply cannot wait to see how far this gets thrown back in their face. As though even like Keanu, I don't really get the hype. The further separation of gaming companies and games themselves from gaming is reaching a boiling point. Now atop simply introducing things into the game, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, Ubisoft also suggested the creation of the Quartz platform, resulting in a video with, according to protocol, with a little over 1,500 likes from the various members of the company and over 40,000 dislikes, resulting in the announcement video being unlisted from YouTube, or at least that's what we speculate upon. That's legal, right? But most importantly, it has sparked a reaction from various members of the gaming community, the Microsoft Studio Community Manager, and the Xbox chief Phil Spencer, expressing that not only is this ethically dubious, but there's no practical reason to implement NFTs into your game, certainly not for buying or trading unique loot, as well as that it is a scam and the more people in the gaming industry who are willing to say so publicly, and if I may paraphrase, consequences be damned, the better. And a general justification for a lot of this has been the fact that it's not threatening. And we said the exact same thing about cosmetic DLC. We said the same with the introduction of in-game currency, with the introduction of in-game stores, and look where we are now. There is truly only one good battle royale. Now, something that it was genuinely nice to see is the fact that Steam, at the very least, has taken a little bit of a stand against this. I just bring this up to leave us on a little bit less doom and gloom and remind ourselves why the people over at Valve are still our harsh but fair gaming overlords. Back in October of 2021, Steam, without pomp or ceremony, simply went about banning NFT games upon their platform. And the reason for this, in accordance with an article by Mondag.com, has stated that Steam's point of view is that items have value and Steam doesn't allow items that can have real-world value on their platform. Coming from a tweet by Space Pirate, a gaming developer, back in October 14th of 2021. With Steam in October 15th, the following day, outright banning the use of cryptocurrencies and NFTs on its platform in its new platform guidelines, stating that anything built on blockchain technology that issue or allow the exchange of cryptocurrencies or NFTs cannot be published. And if you are wanting to learn a little bit more about NFTs, then I highly recommend reading through this article, not only for some of the history surrounding NFTs' introduction into gaming and the wondrous existence of evolved apes, but also just to generally update you on cryptocurrency and its capabilities within the current economic markets. Wow, I almost sounded smart then. There we are, the future of gaming and the company willing but consumer-based reluctant acceptance for NFTs within gaming in the future. And with the AAA industry ever more shifting away from the creation of games that entertain people, delivering a product that works upon day one, and arguably more importantly, one that actually lives up to the marketing surrounding it, look once more to indie gaming to lead the way. Now, if you'll excuse me, following that horrendous Ubisoft video, YouTube has suggested I listen to Lynyrd Skynyrd, and who am I to disagree? Well, I'm enjoying a little bit of Blue Pyro. Either way, till next time, as always, peace out.